Prepare yourselves for a battle of epic proportions between two titans. Feast upon their voices and revel in their words. This is Dueling Ogres.
Hello, Ogres, and welcome to episode 84. Thank you for joining us, as always, on this monumental Sunday evening, Earth date July 10th, 2016. I'm your host, Remington Hitchcock, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Brandon Full. Say hello, Brandon.
Hello, Remington.
And also with us today, once again, Terry Ervin II, author.
Hey, hey.
And already I have
notifications on.
I've got notifications on, apparently, because I'm a super professional. I thought I turned them off. Man. All right, it's off.
That could be Publishers Clearinghouse. You could be a millionaire and you just turn that off.
Yeah,
Good.
check it.
No, it's not important. Publishers Clearinghouse can wait.
Somebody in Nigeria has money for me? What am I doing here? Knock the mic over.
It's funny that is still a thing. Like, you would think that it would have petered out by now. Publishers Clearinghouse?
Is it still a thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. They still
I mean,
do it.
Ed McMahon doesn't do it anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Do they still do it the same way? They just send you the mail that says you could be eligible?
They send you the big ass check.
Like,
Well, yeah, you order magazines. I mean, it's still a route for ordering magazines on discount and things like that. I don't know how much longer it is going to be around, but you can still order magazines, the electronic versions of them too.
yeah.
So I imagine it'll keep going around. Maybe they'll mail you an electronic check.
See, I didn't even know that Publishers Clearinghouse was tied to a product. I thought it was just like a random lottery that they mailed you.
No,
So,
you have
I
to
guess I learned something
Yeah, you
today.
have to sign up for it. I don't know exactly what the.
In theory, you don't have to buy anything either, but I think they sell more than just magazines. I
Yeah.
bet they sell other stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea because
I'm
I've
not
never.
a
Yeah,
member, but I know it's still.
Yeah.
I still see it on the TV every once in a while. That's all I know of it.
So, Terry W. Ervin II does not work at Publishers Clearinghouse.
And I
Nope.
don't think my books are available through them. I haven't checked.
We need to get Mr. McMahon on the phone. You are an author. This is the second time we've had him on. The first episode was what, 53?
53.
Mm-hmm.
I saw you put that back up too.
Yeah. I noticed that there is still quite a few episodes that aren't up on the site that I haven't taken the time to transfer over to the WordPress.
Because
So,
you want to sleep or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes
You get plenty of sleep.
I get no sleep. I'm constantly working on this podcast.
I know, literally every time I come over, it doesn't matter what time of day it is. He's like, oh, hey, Brandon.
He sees you pull in the driveway and then he runs to the computer.
Yeah.
Turns it on.
I've been awake the whole
You
time.
just did the website upgrade and everything else. And that takes a while.
Yeah.
Because you learn, do you do the HTML and things like that some, and some of the cutouts and.
Well, when we first started with the WordPress, I used or the website itself. I used Adobe Muse to set up the WordPress, which is like the designer's version of Dreamweaver, which is like the coding side of it. So it's more like a drag and drop editor, and then you can fiddle with it. But and then I learned how to make a WordPress theme from the ground up, so I could kind of tailor our theme around what we wanted. And then from there, when I did the full switch over to WordPress, I just used what I learned on building a theme to make a theme that already had all the functionality and stuff. It's the WordPress 2016 theme. And I took that and made a child theme and just changed bits and pieces to tailor it to our website.
And that was about 20 minutes worth of work.
Yeah, give or take.
Roughly, yeah.
Well, yours certainly outshines my website.
Whenever he uploaded the new website, wasn't there a moment where there was a crossover where the old website was being deleted as the new one was uploading? And somehow some streams got crossed, and for a moment it looked like he had just lost everything.
Yeah. Well, I was backing up the entirety of the website, and then pulling after I had backed it up, pulling the actual trigger of switching from the Muse styled WordPress, or the Muse style, to the full WordPress was, yeah, I thought that I had lost everything. I thought I had deleted everything off of the server, and I pooped myself a little bit. And
I mean, I can make all the jokes about you having a heart attack soon, but if that didn't cause a heart attack, then I think you've got a pretty strong heart in there.
Thanks. I'm glad you think so.
You're like Ellen DeGeneres with a strong heart.
I don't.
Because everybody loves. She's America's national treasure, Remington.
Oh, well, that's true.
So what we're going to be doing, right off the bat, we are doing a contest with this episode. So I've got a couple questions. During this episode, I'm going to be asking Terry. I'm going to say, here's question 1, blah, blah, blah. And he's going to give me an answer. After this episode is published, if you're listening to it, not on the live stream, you can email us at duelingogres@gmail.com and give me the answer to maybe 5, probably 4 questions, depending on if I can think of something as we go. But I'll say at the end of the episode what they are. So send the answers to that email, again, duelingogres@gmail.com. It's going to go until the 24th of July, 2016. And from the correct answers, I'm going to pick a winner at random who can pick any of Terry's books, and he will send them a copy.
Yep.
We could have up to 5 winners?
Yes. There can be up to 5 winners. So if you think somebody else has answered already, go ahead and send it in anyway and give it a shot.
Yep.
Can they call you on the phone?
Yeah.
Use your phone number? Answer?
Yeah. Let's see. Look, he's just leading us on.
You are professional.
You are professional as hell. 978-DU Ogres. You can also call in at 978-386-4737, right? Is that right?
No. I don't do the outro. I don't have that memorized.
Why not? Now I have to pull it up so I can make sure. 386-4737, yep. So
986.
978. You're terrible. 978-386-4737.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can also call there and leave your answers.
They can find it on your website.
Yeah, it's plastered all over the place, and you can listen to any one of the other podcasts and get it off of there as well. So,
and then what will happen is, if they live in the United States, we'll mail them their copy, and they can have it signed any way they want. If they win, they'll have to obviously give their address.
yeah.
So if they're like, under, protection, government protection, then they probably don't want to enter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you could do a P.O. box. You could just write that one Walmart, and we could probably figure it out from there.
That one Walmart next to the place with the stuff and the thing. Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, Terry knows exactly where that is.
But if they are outside the United States, I can get them an ebook.
Okay.
Okay. Fair enough.
This is probably a dumb question. Does an ebook work on any digital device? Like, I have a phone, obviously, and then I have a Kindle, and I can do stuff from the Amazon store. Like, your ebooks, they're available through the Amazon store?
Yes, They're available through Smashwords, through iTunes, through just about Kobo. They're available anywhere, but the Kindle has their own format. Like I think it's a .mobi.
Okay.
Okay, and so it works with them. But if you go through like Smashwords, you can get it like as a PDF file, or
Okay.
there's different ebook files, and there's a whole variety. And I don't know how it works with Kobo because I've never ordered anything from them because I just have a Kindle and a Smashwords account. It's worked for me.
Right.
But I think with Kobo, I see an advertisement every now and then, they'll give you like $5 of books free, your first $5 worth of books free.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Do you, whenever your book goes to ebook, are they released simultaneously in hard copy and
Usually
ebook?
the ebook comes out, at least in my experience, comes out a little bit before, a week before the print book, and then the audio book comes out probably a month and a half after
Yeah.
that, because once it's printed, my publisher has the narrator organized and lined up, but sometimes it also depends on their schedule
Yeah.
as to when they can get it finished. So at least in my experience with my books, you're looking at maybe 6 weeks afterwards.
For everything to be out.
Everything to be out, correct.
Gotcha.
So in your experience, then, do they decide they're going to do an audiobook before books are published or before books are printed?
Yeah, I think so. Part of it is you finding a narrator who's willing to do it, and then there's different ways that it's done. Sometimes if you go like through ACX, it's royalty share, or the narrator charges per hour of recording fee, and then $200 an hour, $400 an hour, and then they get
Wow.
paid up front. And that's something the publisher handles. I don't deal with that.
Right.
But since my books have sold pretty well, I think I can anticipate they probably will go to
Audio.
audiobook because, and that just assumes that my publisher will take my next book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my books have done well. They make a profit for him. I make some money. And so it's worth it. But I always write my next book like, I don't write it like, I got this in the bag. You want to put the best product out there, not only for the readers, and that's part of it, but if you want to get it published, it's got to be the best thing possible. Because if you put a piece of crud, the publisher's going to say, nah.
Yeah.
And then I guess I could self-publish it, but then again, if it's a piece of crud,
Then you don't make anything else.
yeah, people are going to, word gets around.
Yeah.
Have you interacted with other authors who have kind of fallen into those traps at all? Like, obviously, without naming anybody.
Well, there's some of them that have that sophomore type of, the second book lull or whatever. And some of it is because they've written their first novel and they spent forever getting it ready and polishing it.
Right.
And some of them, then they find out they're on a deadline for the next one. And for whatever reason, it just doesn't come out as well. Maybe it's a deadline. Maybe it's just that it's just not as good of a book. You don't know. And so I've seen that happen. But I think most authors, once they get the first book out, they want people to read it, so they really try to do the best job they can. I think deadlines is really what catches them.
Yeah.
Because a publisher has a schedule and they schedule it out, and because when you turn it in, then there's edits and everything. There's a whole process that needs to go through. Smaller publishers, I think, are more flexible, but other publishers, Bain, Tor, they're 18 months, 2 years out.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have it ready, don't ever expect a contract again, unless you're like huge.
Right.
Yeah.
Stephen King could come along and write another
Yeah.
book, and
But then I would assume, like everything else, he's probably a professional and comes in on time.
yeah, true.
Things happen in your life. You get in a car wreck and, you're in traction for 6 weeks. That might throw you off.
Yeah, right.
But a publisher's going to probably understand that and
Yeah.
work things around.
A crazed fan kidnaps you and keeps you in the bed with your kneecaps broken.
Well, then
Yeah.
they probably would expect you to write faster.
Oh yeah, that's true. Do you want to go into what you have written so far? Because I don't think we actually said
No, we
what books
haven't
you've
started.
written.
That's what I was just getting ready to say.
On episode 53, I know we covered some of this, but this is for the new viewers and the new listeners. We'll kind of give a rundown of your work so far.
Okay.
If you want to give go in and give kind of the description of the story and all that.
At 53, you were still working on Relic Hunted.
Yes.
You hadn't even come out with your title yet.
Yep.
You were still thinking about it.
I have to say I did suggest Dueling Ogres the story, and you said you'd think about it. And I can't help but notice that you didn't go with that name for your book.
Yeah.
Well, I write fiction, but to try and make it an interesting story,
There's only so much fiction can do.
like Forrest Gump, people are going to be going, no way. No.
There's only so many words of the English language, and none of them would make our story interesting. Is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. So,
Okay, well, my first series, I write fantasy and science fiction mainly. My
Right.
short stories are a little bit more varied. But my first series is fantasy. It's the First Civilization's Legacy series, and I'll just kind of hold these up somewhere.
yep.
That's
we're on
Flank
camera
Hawk,
one.
the first
yeah.
one. And then Blood Sword is the second in the series, and Soul Forge is the third in the series so far. And it's not like a trilogy, and those books were written to stand alone. So if you like the second book, you read the back, you say, hey, that'd be good.
Mm-hmm.
Go with it. I think I talked a little bit about that last
Yeah,
episode.
you did.
So
Mhm.
I'm not going to go into great detail with that. But it is a post-apocalyptic fantasy series, which means it happens a few thousand years in the future,
Right.
where magic exists, but there's still remnant technology.
Right.
And so it follows Flank Hawk, who is he was a farmhand turned mercenary, and it kind of follows his adventures.
I noticed in reading the first book, there's a lot of emphasis on, at least early on, with the healers and kind of is it a church? Are they following a religion as far as the healers go?
Sort of, and it talks about who people are gods, and the goddess Fendra Jolane is the goddess of healing.
Right.
And that becomes a major focus in the second book, Blood Sword, where they actually, after the first crisis is dealt with, the Necromancer King in the first book, then she's the next one. And he serves the King of Kisi as a mercenary.
Yeah.
And well, Kisi's now very weakened, and Fendra Jolane decides, hey, time to invade. Because, and it's really weird. And one of the themes is, and that's really asked, well, is she evil? Is she bad? Why are you going to war? But there's always two sides to a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that's explored. The other thing that people have talked about is they think it's kind of realistic because it's not all glory
Yeah.
and like, hey, this, the main character, it really beats him down. The responsibility, the consequences.
right.
It doesn't like he just, skips off, what's another battle,
Yeah. So it's a little bit less like a D&D campaign and a lot more like a real or a truer to life story.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
And then I have the science fiction series.
yeah, I was going to say,
Well,
so
let me
really-
ask real quick with
Sure.
the First Civilization's Legacy series. So is the world polytheistic? Or is this something that you find out through the books that you'd be spoiling? Like, are there multiple gods in this world that are genuine Greek mythology style
like
pantheon
living,
gods?
breathing pantheon gods.
Well, there are pantheons, but you find out that they're called different things. Some of the gods are called immortal bloods by some people. They're basically very powerful, and that's one of the things that did you remember what you read at Ruse from the Reunited Kingdom?
Yeah.
Okay, and he ends up debating that or talking about that with the Colonel of the West, who some people call a god. And then what is a god, what isn't a god? And because with the Reunited Kingdom, it's almost like they are I forget the way you would put it, but they still are like Christianity.
Yeah.
But it's like a throwback. They're like backwater, and so that exists. And one of the things,
So they're more monotheistic then?
yeah,
or-
they're monotheistic. They are actually Christian. There is other religions, they still exist, but they just have never taken place in the books.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So and one of the things, for example, with those, they're called Crusaders, and with the reunited kingdom, one of the things is they don't use magic.
Yeah.
Magic doesn't work on them, which is an advantage and a disadvantage.
Right.
You talked about healers. Well, you're not going to get healed.
Yeah.
That's just out of luck.
Yeah.
In that way.
Yeah.
But then again, there's a sorcerer. He's not going to be able to cast a spell on you.
Right.
It's not going to work.
I'm a big fan of that in fantasy. Like, I like high magic worlds in fantasy. Wizards casting spells and crumbling buildings and all that. But I also like when they add in something where magic isn't just completely pervasive and just works on everything all the time.
Or even like with the Force and how, a Jedi mind trick doesn't work on a hut.
Yeah, see, that I didn't like so much. That felt like a plot device just for the sake of being a plot device, Like, Jedi mind trick doesn't work on Jabba the Hutt because then you need the Rancor fight.
Yeah.
I don't know. I see how you're looking at me like there's a little bit of hypocrisy in what I was just saying versus that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like with magic, I see you got to do there. But it's just magic, whenever they write it where it's just pervasive and can do anything, then you can just solve every problem with magic. So having a race in there, is it a race that magic doesn't really affect them?
Well, it's their belief system that makes them immune.
Okay.
So magic in this world is more of a divine magic then. Yes?
In a way, you'd have to really. I don't want to give too much away,
Right.
and it's being revealed later on in the books.
Okay.
But because of their belief system, magic doesn't affect them.
Gotcha.
But they cannot also use magic, and spellcasters, the magic that they do perform affects them. And see, if you remember, the little chapter starts at the beginning.
Yeah.
Explains how come the world became the way it is.
Yes.
And so I don't want to give away too much, but that kind of would answer your question.
Gotcha.
So you got to read Flank Hawk
Yeah.
to figure it out.
I know.
But
I would have if I could find my damn copy
I
of it.
heard that. Well, maybe I'll leave one behind. I'll forget it. Okay.
It ends up being midichlorians, though, right? Like
Yeah.
at the end of the whole thing, it's
God,
you ruined it for me.
But the thing is, even that, like with seers, the more powerful they become, they lose their vision.
Yeah.
It disappears. With a healer, you become unable to actually physically hurt other people.
yeah.
So your magic that you do, enchanters become more susceptible to other people's magic.
Yeah.
And the more powerful they become. So what you do does affect you. So a necromancer it's not pretty. The more
Right.
powerful you become.
Yeah.
The more you just start to rot and become.
Not pretty.
I think before we go into your next series, this would be a good point to put in the first question of the contest we got going on here. And my first question is, who is your favorite fantasy character
Outside of my series.
outside of your series?
I would say Vlad Taltos from that series written by Stephen Brust. A lot of people, I guess, like me, used to call him Stephen Brust, but I found out it's Brust. The wonders of YouTube.
Yeah.
Because you hear his name and you hear him speak it.
Yeah.
And so then you know.
That's one of those things. Jared Leto was one that I always thought it was pronounced Leto.
Yeah.
And it's Leto. And I think early on when we were talking about it, when it was first released that he was going to be playing the Joker, I thought it was weird and commented on it and said his name wrong. So
Yeah.
you always feel dumb afterward.
And
Like
I could
archipelago.
understand
Yeah.
because you look at the spelling and phonetically what sounds right.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's exactly what you did.
Yeah.
And like Stephen Brust, it's spelled Brust.
Yeah. Looks like Brust to me.
Yep.
So what is it about this character that you enjoy?
he's just kind of an interesting character. He's kind of an underdog,
Yeah.
and he's kind of witty, and he's not the toughest guy in the world. He's kind of smart, but he's not the smartest guy in the world. He kind of can use a little bit of magic, but he's just out of the mainstream.
Yeah.
And I just kind of I guess I don't like massive superhero character. Superman is not my kind of guy.
Right.
Because for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got his weakness, but really, just about anything else, he can just come in and clean house.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and his weakness is so... I mean, in the comics, it ends up being really easy to come by. But ideally, when he's created, it's a piece of rock of his home planet that exploded, so good luck with that.
Yeah.
Those are laying around. Get them at the dollar store.
Yeah. What do you think it is about underdog characters that you like so much? Because I've in both Flying Hawk and your other series, the Relic Tech series, the Cracks War Chronicles.
Yes. Cracks War Chronicles.
They're both kind of underdog characters.
Well, they're just average guys. Krish is not the best swordsman. Actually, he uses a boar spear. He's not the best, and part of the reason he never really gets better is because he's got that latent healer in him.
Yeah.
And so those are two things that are drawing along, and that's why it surprises
kind of the
people because
dichotomy,
you're a mercenary. How can you be a healer? And that's why he's such a crappy healer because of his chosen profession, what he does.
Yeah.
So they're just average people. He's not a superhero. He gets his butt kicked often enough, or he needs, but he does. He's good enough. He does what he needs to do, and he's kind of ruthless. And like in Soulforge, later on, he kind of accepts who he is, and somebody like insults him or challenges him. Right there, he attacks him right there because he knows he doesn't have a great, he's not going to, okay, and we'll see what happens type attitude.
He's got kind of the Marty McFly attitude. Don't call me chicken.
Well, like it said, Road Toad taught him as a mercenary, you're only as good as you're respected, and so if somebody lies about you or they insult you, you've got to defend yourself.
Yeah.
Even if that means because your name is important as a mercenary.
Right.
Otherwise, you're nobody.
Yeah.
How much do you believe that in real life? Like, do you feel like respect is tied to...
No, I don't think... I think that I'm nowhere like that, personally. If somebody insults me, it may not make you happy, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go get my shotgun and shoot them. Take it back or I'm going to blow your head off.
Right.
Yeah.
None of that kind of stuff. No, and as a teacher, you have to be more laid back and stuff like that because, kids aren't going to be perfect and you can't hold a grudge. Because if you do that...
You're just going to hate every fifth kid who comes through your school.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to be able to forgive people and move on and move forward. That doesn't mean you have to forget.
Right.
If a kid, you wrote them a pass to the restroom and they run around and they go cause trouble somewhere else, well, you don't hold it against them the rest of their life.
Right.
But also that means you're a lot more worried about allowing them to use the restroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just common sense.
Right.
So no, that's not I'm not like
No. So you don't have... Well, I was wondering because when you pulled up, I saw you had a boar spear in the back of your car.
Yeah.
You notice I cleaned the blood off, right?
I did until you mentioned that there was blood on it previously, and now I've got a whole different series of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it feels like there's less worry for us now then, right?
No, because you clean off the blood before you plan on
But
using it again.
I was spearing fish.
Oh. On the drive down here?
Well, there's the river
Yeah.
not far away.
That's true.
You don't want to eat any fish out of
Oh,
that
yeah.
river. That's the Ohio. That might as well be...
The Ohio River. I don't think you can even compare it to something else.
Oh, I was thinking, what's the...
The Hudson?
No, the other river in... the one in India that's just terrible, that they still... It's a holy river, so they still bathe in it for, holy cleansing, but it's just completely disgusting.
Well, I grew up in Toledo near Lake Erie.
Yeah.
When it was really polluted, you'd walk along and there'd be dead fish up on the...
Ooh, yeah.
And then there's the Cuyahoga River. When I was a kid, it actually, caught fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of that lately, too.
Yeah.
We had, that weird algae stuff that was
The
growing
algae
on it.
bloom.
Yeah.
Well, Toledo had that, was it 2015, and they lost their drinking water for a while.
Yeah.
And they've got it down in Florida now, along the coast, because they let out a lake. I don't know, is it around here? You guys got the blue-green algae that causes problems?
Yeah, it was an algae, but it kind of looked like oil too. It was this super weird glistening thing that was just all over the water.
Yeah.
And they didn't, at least on the news around here, they didn't go into exactly what it was, which was a little more worrisome. It was just, this is an algae thing. It happens, but don't go in the river or touch it or drink it. And past that, they were just like, but it's okay. It's still fine.
It's not going to kill you as long as you just don't come in contact with it, right?
Yeah.
and it happens with runoffs from fields and all the phosphates and things like that, and pollute. And once it gets built up, it's a real hard. It reaches that tipping point. We have a lake up near us that has had problems with it for years.
Yeah.
And basically you have to dredge it out, I think, and just start over. And that's expensive, and it really messes with, well, there's probably not much ecosystem left in the lake after this. But.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I mean, we're surrounded by so many chemical plants here anyway that I think they're just like, at least it's not on fire yet, you know?
So, Crack's War Chronicles then.
Okay.
Go into that.
That's my science fiction series.
Right.
And we've got, the first one is Relic Tech. And the second one that is the most recent book I have published is Relic Hunted, the second in the series. And again, those are written to stand alone.
Yeah.
But, and that takes place in the future as well, obviously. But the main character is a fourth-class security specialist, Krakista Kisei, Kra.
Yeah.
And he is a relic, which means he uses basically 1990s technology, but it's spacefaring time. And so he's got kind of a chip on his shoulder.
Right.
One of the things that when I thought about writing the book was disparity, and I thought about economic disparity and things like. Well, I thought in the future, technological disparities, and that was one of the things I wanted to explore.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's where it came.
Was that kind of where that was what you springboarded your idea off
That
of?
was one of the things that came in there, and also I wanted to write a frame story, which is a story within a story.
Right.
And it's kind of an old classic structure. Arabian Nights uses it. I mean,
oh yeah.
And so what it is the story starts off with Kra. He's critically injured, dying,
right,
and wounded, and he's pushed into a trial, literally on his medical
Deathbed.
bed.
Yeah, I have to say I love
And-
that opening.
and,
it really sets up his character well.
So then so that sets up the story where he gets his brain hooked up through some legal maneuvering to the cranial tower, which downloads his memories.
yeah,
And he figures he's going to be screwed over anyways. It's going to addle his brain. But if he's guilty, he gets what he deserves. He didn't think he'd do it. But if somebody's setting him up, they're going to get revealed in it too. And so then the story picks up where his memories are being downloaded. And then it wraps up at the end, story within a story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it really sets up his character well. That he has that mentality of, if I'm going to die, either I'm going to get cleared or I'm going to die, and it'll take somebody out with me.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and his attitude, a lot of it is, I might have to lose, but that doesn't mean you get to win.
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Attitude.
I think you said that in the last interview that we did too, kind of that. Would you say that that's sort of his unofficial motto? Like, is that where you come from when you write him?
His motto is, and I can't say the Latin, but it translates, nobody injures me with impunity.
I like
And
it.
that came from the Cask of Amontillado.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Nemo le something lacessit. Impune lacessit.
It's been so long since I've read that.
Does he say that as he's putting the guy on
He
the
does.
wall? Is that when he?
Yeah, yeah. That's Fortunato. That's his motto.
Okay.
And actually, he's got I think it's like a coat of arms, and it's got somebody. If I recall, I'm trying to remember stepping on a snake, and the snake is rearing up and biting the guy's ankle.
Yeah, yeah.
If I recall accurately. So, and that's kind of Kra's attitude, and he's kind of got a chip on his shoulder, and he kind of knows he's a jerk and a loner, but
Right.
But
It's okay to
once he makes friends with somebody, he's pretty loyal.
Yeah.
And duty and doing your job is the most important thing to him. If you're hired to do something or if you're assigned to do something, you follow through to the best of your ability. That's his attitude.
Right.
And he always tries to do the right thing. And eventually, what it comes down to, and in the next book, obviously he survives because he's in the next book and people know.
Spoiler, Terry, come on.
Yeah, seriously.
But the company that he got caught, or that was revealed, has a bounty out on his head, and he could hide from it. And they tell him you should do plastic surgery, and he's like, I am who I am. This is a huge thing of space. The real enemy is the cracks, and I'm going to go after them. I'm not going to look over my shoulder.
Yeah.
Bounty hunters or anybody else, which gets him in trouble.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So, where would you put him on like the badass scale? If you were to say like 10, what would you do for a badass scale?
10 would be
Indiana Jones? Would you say he would be a 10?
Yeah, I could do maybe Indiana Jones or
Ash from Evil Dead.
Ooh.
Have you seen Evil Dead or Army of Darkness?
Yeah, Army of Dark. Bruce Campbell's very cool. We talked about it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so we'll
yeah.
say Bruce Campbell's 10 on the badass scale.
Bruce Campbell's easily an 11, but we'll call
And
him
10. Who would be number 1 then?
but still a badass?
A 1 on the scale.
A 1 on the scale?
Mm-hmm.
Brandon.
Brandon. Okay. So between Brandon and Bruce Campbell, where would you say he's on that scale?
He's
Is he like a kicking down the door?
he's kind of relentless, but he's really not all that tough. And he knows. I mean, he gets beat up by Marines and things like that. He's
Going back to the everyman sort of.
Yeah, he's a security specialist. I think one reviewer talked about it, and they said, we're so tired a lot of times of it's kind of a paramilitary story, because of it goes to the backdrop of a war, and he's mixed up with that. The transport that he's on gets boarded, and there's a lot of things that go on with that. He ends up being a conscript on a planet that's being invaded.
Yeah.
But basically, it's kind of like you've got some basic training, and he knows how to fight, but he's certainly not in the league with somebody who has a black belt.
Yeah.
They're going to kick his butt from here to Wednesday.
Right.
It happens. So as far as badass as that, but as far as somebody who you would want somebody at your back, you'd want him there.
Yeah.
That thing. He probably would hold the guy off enough for you to run away.
Yeah.
But he's, if it's going to be an army coming, he's not going to, he's got a little bit of luck, and that kind of helps him too. But, obviously you see at the beginning of the book, he's on death's doorstep. He doesn't have that much luck.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, and
yeah.
I like how the description is, it really sets him up as a tough character, but not over the top, because he's describing the pain that he's in, and whenever they unhook him from the machine for a few and then hook him back up to it, and it's kind of a back and forth chess game. It's not like he gritted his teeth and bared through the pain. I mean, it's like he almost passes out. He
I'm
knows he's
dying.
going to die, and
Yeah.
it's just like, this is awful.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still cognizant enough to kind of play them off each other and realize what he has to do to stay alive in that
Right.
moment.
I don't know. And I think that those characters are kind of interesting. So, instead of coming up as a private through the ranks, he's a security specialist whose events are thrust upon him.
Yeah.
He's tasked with trying to save this kid,
Right.
important kid. And so he does it because he's assigned to do it. It's important to do, so he does it to the best of his ability.
Right.
Is there a heavy political storyline going through in the background of the books? Because I read, I think, the first 2 or 3 chapters of Relic Tech, so I haven't made it through the book yet.
No, I wouldn't say it's political. The politics, the political system that humanity is set up it's kind of a dual system. There's like the house, it's kind of like the corporate house where, so it's like the Senate and the House of Representatives. There's a corporate house, and what they do, corporations bid for seats, and it's kind of like a silent auction.
Mm-hmm.
And however, what percent you put in will decide if you get 1 seat, 5 seats, 12 seats. And that's
Okay.
how you fund the government. And then the other house is for popular vote.
Yeah.
And so those two have to come together and mesh. So the people get a vote, the corporations get a vote. So it's kind of a mesh. So one side doesn't get it totally their way.
Right.
And Capital Galactic Investment Group, which is the one that Craw comes into conflict with, is like the dominant corporation.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I thought you had a question. I was looking to you.
Nope.
Okay, so I will go on to...
You've got the lead. I've got the tech.
I'll go on to question 2 then on the contest questions. And number 2 is, who is your favorite sci-fi character?
Right now, I'd have to say Hank from the Hard Luck Hank series by Stephen Campbell.
Okay. And what is... I'm not familiar with that series at all.
I've heard of that, but I haven't.
It's kind of a humorous science fiction, and what it is Hank is a mutant, and this is a totally different reality. He's part of the Colmarian Confederation, and he's a mutant where his skin is really thick, dense, and he can't really be hurt. You can shoot him with a bullet; it hurts, but it doesn't kill him.
Right.
Okay. And so he's kind of like on the Belleville, which is a space station. He's kind of like a between thugs and other groups because he's a good negotiator.
Right.
Because obviously you can't shoot him. I mean, you can shoot him, but it's not going to solve your problem.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what happens is he's kind of funny. He's slow. He's kind of strong, but he's slow. And he knows he's not the brightest guy in the world. And what happens is just a lot of antics and weird things happen. And he has to solve a mystery. Something's going on, and he tries to solve it. And he kind of blunders around.
Yeah, I've heard that it's a really good tale.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got
But
like
I just haven't read
5
it
books
myself.
out, and the covers are hilarious. Like the first one, it's got Hank, and he's kind of this big muscular guy, and he's standing on top of this pile, and he's wearing a pink bathrobe with his with his shotgun and his ray gun.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's funny. You can maybe put up a photo of it on the sometime in your notes or something.
Yeah. I'll share some links when I go back through and you put this up. I'll try and make notes of all this stuff.
The cover is what caught my. I heard somebody talk about it, so I said I'm going to look into it.
Yeah.
And so that cover, I said, this is probably going to be pretty funny.
Right.
Yeah. And have you read the entire series or what's out of them?
I've read some of them, but I've listened to them on audiobook mostly, and my family we're listening to the last one now. And his titles are kind of funny too. That's what I was looking up here before because I forget them. The first one is Hard Luck Hank, Screw the Galaxy. Then the next one is Hard Luck Hank, and it's like a basket full of crap. And then The Prince of Suck, Suck My Cosmos, and Stank Delicious. Hard Luck Hank. And so,
Nice.
yeah, they're not. I've only got one of them uploaded, but the pictures and the artwork is really good. And that's a self-published book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Self-published. And the thing is, there's a lot of good self-published books out there. It's just harder to find them.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff that people just, because they can do it, they publish it. It's like, and some of them, they don't even run it through spell check hardly.
Yeah.
Oh, I've read some, preview this book pages on some self-published books that are just...
And that's a wise thing to do.
It's almost like they have intentionally made it as misspelled and bad as possible.
Yeah.
But Stephen Campbell has done really well, phenomenally well. I think he did try to go the corporate route or the traditional route.
Yeah.
And I think they just had trouble pigeonholing what his books were.
Right.
And I'm thinking some publishers are probably sad that they didn't take it.
Yeah.
Because he's done very well. He's a very good writer. Tells great stories, great characters that are in them, entertaining, and the book, the one book to the next it's not a rehash of what happened before.
Right.
It's something totally new.
Yeah.
And in one he's that thug, and another one he's the Supreme Comolier, which means he's like the head cop. The supreme cop, and on Belleville. I mean, so is
it a continuing story though?
They're separate stories, but the same character and some of the recurring characters.
Okay. Do they reference each other? Like if you're reading book 3, is it ever going to do a callback to
book 1?
Sort of, but you don't have to have read it. I think you're better off with his reading it up from the beginning.
Right.
I think you probably don't want to pick up book 5, although you could. But really, I think you should start out with the beginning with them.
Yeah.
Because they're all good. But you could pick up, I mean, if you look at, and Stephen Campbell's got book 2 on sale, for an ebook,
Right.
get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You said that the Flankhawk series is the same way, right?
I think mine is more so than Stephen Campbell's because I wrote it clearly. I think he did to a certain extent too.
Yeah.
But he references back well enough that you should be able to get along. But like with Flankhawk, when I get to the 5th book, I think it's going to be to the point again where you're going to have to have read at least one of the earlier books.
Right.
Because eventually, when you've got a characters in history, like, Hard Luck Hank, Delovo, which is this 3-eyed, whacked out, super brilliant scientist who's totally amoral. It's like, well, that killed some people, but you look what we figured out.
Those are always my favorite characters in stories.
And the banter between him and Hard Luck Hank is, those two are probably best friends and they annoy the crap out of each other.
Right.
And you would just by the 5th book, Delovo's like aged and but he's done surgery on himself and his organs and stuff are in a cart that he pushes around to keep himself alive. And he rips on Hank because there's some other things that go on. But
Right.
But they're just entertaining characters.
Yeah.
And stories.
Do you find yourself because you keep yourself pretty busy.
Yes.
It seems like. You're a teacher, you're a father, you're a writer. You've got
grade E courses. I'm go to church. Have turtles.
Yeah,
and
politician.
The village council.
Right.
And you just I'm very busy.
So when it comes to reading other people's works, do you find yourself more often than not going towards an ebook route? Or
Audiobook.
or an audiobook route?
Yeah, an audiobook. Actually, for example, I was listening to the one you recommended or talked about.
American Gods?
American Gods. I'm listening to that because I had a long drive.
Right.
It's productive for me. It's storytelling.
Yeah.
And one of the best ways to be a good writer is to pay attention to other writers.
Yeah.
You're not going to be exactly the same as them, just like a baseball player, but you watch how they do things. Yeah, you're going to have a slightly different stance and stuff, but you're going to know, in batting or fielding, but you're going to learn from them.
Right. And that's one of the reasons, just to draw some parallels, I don't listen myself to a lot of podcasts. There's one that I listen to, and that's what I've kind of modeled hours off of a little bit because they do a good job. The guy who
Is that the World of Warcraft one you
the
listen to?
World of Warcraft one, I convert to Raid.
Is that why you keep trying to talk about World of Warcraft on the episodes constantly?
Yeah, just always. But no, he was in radio for a long time, so he's really familiar with the audio and stuff and all of that sort of thing. But there have been many times where we've been shooting around ideas and I defer to Brandon because he listens to a lot of podcasts.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, yeah.
So,
Yep. And that's a wise thing to do. You got to do your own thing as well.
yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to be another podcast. Nobody's going to be Dueling Ogres.
Right.
But they may have some of the same things in common. But they're not going to be you guys, your own personality. Just like my writing style is a little bit different. Sometimes I look at it and they say, man, I wish I could write that well. But am who I am. My stories are going to be what they are. I can't be him or her.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking to that same parallel about the podcast stuff too, there's ones that I'll listen to and they do stuff that I love. I like segments or things that they do specifically that I'm like, that's fantastic. But I realize when it comes to practicality, it's just nothing we could do. Either it's technical or personality wise or whatever, Right. And I feel like from what you're saying, writing is a lot of the same way. Is you can take positives and negatives from an author. I really like how they do this, but like you said, I'd like to do it that way, but that's just not how. That's not me. That's not how I'm going to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when I get stuck, is I think maybe what Remington was alluding to. You got an idea. How am I going to do this? I'm not doing this very well. You go. I go and I have some go-to authors. Like Stephen Bruce is one of them. Roger Zelazny, Stephen Donaldson. There's some of them that I go to that I say, how did they do this type of action scene?
Right.
Or this type, how did they get that dialogue set? And so I study it. I say, this is how they did it. Then I apply it to my writing style, my story, just like you guys apply then what you learn
Yeah.
to your podcast
Right.
and your audience's needs and desires.
Do you have other authors that you bounce ideas off of too? Like actual interactions with them?
Some. I mean, I was a member of a crit group, couple crit groups for quite a while, and now I have just a couple authors like William Weldy, Bill Weldy. He's a guy I worked with, and he writes kind of action adventure, police procedurals, a little bit of romance in those books. Like he's written Outlaws and The Onion Caper and things like that. And he's a guy who I know personally, and I'll go to lunch with him if I got questions, or I'll call him up or talk to him or email him. But he was a law enforcement. He worked in the Dayton Police Department. Then he was a law enforcement instructor at the school where I was, a career tech school.
Yeah.
So that's how I got to know him.
Yeah.
Were you going along the lines of asking about busyness?
Yeah, you're talking about how busy I am.
The
How busy and important?
how busy and important he is as I
Yeah.
try to make my things go again.
Well, we noticed. We were talking
This is
about.
multitasking. Yeah.
I'm not
I wouldn't
great.
say really multitasking.
Yeah,
It's
more like focusing right there
one
on
and
the
a half
thing.
tasking.
And, yeah.
We were talking, Remington and I, before you came on, looking at your schedule, how busy you seem around this time. Because we had you on, I think it was 11 months ago, almost to the day.
Yeah,
That we had
August,
you on.
August 6th was
So not
episode 53.
remotely close to the day, but 11 months and some.
Yeah.
And looking at your schedule now versus even just a year ago, it seems like you have a whole lot more on your plate as far as interviews and cons you're showing
Events
up to.
and stuff like that.
Well, it's just how it falls, and during the summers when I got to do it, and I get off end of May, June from teaching,
right.
and I would have done Con Carolinas this year, but my daughter was graduating.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out, well, sorry, dear, good luck.
Yeah.
I hope it works out for you, but I'm going to be at a convention. Can you
Text me from the stage.
Yeah. So, and that only happens once, and anyways, but yeah, so, and with a lot of the conventions, you have to set up stuff way in advance, and you have to apply for a lot of them. Some will just, smaller ones, you'll get a table,
Right.
but other ones you have to apply because there are so many people that want to be there.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes they tell you no.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. But I just try and do it now because I can.
Right.
Because I have the time. Teaching during the school year, I am so busy.
Mm-hmm.
But, during the summer, like I take my daughters places, we'll go to Hocking Hills. I'll take them. I took my older daughter to the Toledo Museum of Art. Well, that's a whole day trip. That's a day gone.
Yeah.
My other daughter, we just went to the Air Force Museum because we were going to go to Hocking Hills that day, but thunderstorms. Well, I guess we're not going to do that.
Right. Yeah.
But so and to get writing done, and I have to put all those things around. You fit it in where you can.
Right.
And so you make writing and the stuff that goes with it a priority, but for me, it's not the top priority.
Right.
Teaching and family's my top. Village council, I have to go and I have to do the research. And, when you have responsibilities, you got to do that.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you go about, and this is something I kind of wanted to focus on because I was curious, probably a little selfishly because I want to get this information from you for ourselves. So I figure it might be interesting to the listeners or viewers also. Once you have your product, you have your book, and your book is even published, say you've gotten that far. From there, how do you go about kind of networking with people, kind of finding places to get interviews on? Do you just have a network of, I have a blog, this person has a blog, we post each other's stuff, and then from there it kind of spider webs out?
That could be it. Some of it, there's different authors that I appear on their blogs, and they appear on yours. Sometimes
Right.
it's a give and take like that.
Yeah.
And, you don't, you ask.
Mm-hmm.
The worst they can say is no.
Right.
And that's okay. You meet people like through events, like through the River City Comic Con. You meet readers, you meet other people. I met some artists there, and then I said, "Hey, you want to be on my blog?" And that's cool. it's a little exposure for them. It's something for my readers to look at. Some of them may not be interested in comic book artists, and some of them might be.
Right.
You just ask and you offer, and you don't offer. I don't offer, I guess, and say, okay, I'll let you be on my blog if you do this for me.
Right.
Yeah.
You just offer, and because people are going to look and say, they know their audience, and so if what I'm doing isn't going to be of interest, it's kind of a waste of my time and their time.
Right.
So,
And I came across you guys because you were mentioned on Robert Bevan,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and so that's how I came across you. And so I through a post that he had did.
yeah, well, and
I've
it's
done.
funny because it's so circular because we were mentioned on his page because I talked about it on the podcast and then messaged him on Facebook and was like, hey, just so you know, I talked about you on podcast. Never talked to him before.
Right,
And
yeah.
it's just, I'm starting to see that a little bit more as far as how networking goes. And now that we've been doing cons and stuff, how much of it is just reaching out to
Yeah,
people.
but and you didn't discuss it or talk about it saying, hey, I'm going to try and get in with you. You just do it, and,
Yeah.
and if it is organic, if it is real, I think it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Because, and you've seen this, you've been to conventions and stuff. There'll be like authors who will be real hard sell. And people are not interested and they just glaze over and they're still trying. And even if you sell them that book,
Yeah.
they're not going to read it.
Yeah.
And what's the point? I guess maybe a couple dollars in your pocket, but really, don't you write to read? Don't you guys do the podcast because you want some people to listen and enjoy it?
yeah.
I suppose you could force somebody to sit down and listen to it. Harangue your friends and say, listen to it, and then quiz them about what happened.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, you must not listen. But really, are they going to enjoy it? No.
Right.
So it's that, and I'm on writers' forums, but I don't go on to writers' forums to sell books to other writers. Yeah, some of them do, but you just don't. But that's where I share ideas
Right.
and learn stuff. And I kind of talk to, for some people who haven't published a book yet, I can share, they have questions.
Right.
So I just tell them what I think.
Yeah.
And like everything else, anything I tell people here, this is my opinion. I don't have all the right answers. If I did, I would be Stephen King.
Right.
Or, I'd be selling millions of books. So if Stephen King tells you something and I tell you something and it doesn't mesh, listen to him.
Follow Stephen King.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nah, never mind. I lost it. I forgot completely what I was going to say. I don't know what happened. My brain just shut
Fair
down.
enough. Let me get the third question in here then.
Sure.
All right.
Third question for the contest.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very cliche question, but I thought it would be interesting to hear your response to this. You're trapped on a desert island. You have one food source, one food that you can eat for the rest of your life. You never run out of it. We'll say a giant crate falls from some sort of plane on this desert island, but you only have one food. You can't catch horseshoe crabs or...
But are you saying that it would be fully nutritious? It would have all the stuff you need?
Yeah, like...
Because let's face it, if you don't get your iron, you're in trouble. Or your vitamin C.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So you would go practical over comfort food then? Because I would go lasagna. I feel like lasagna is enough for the food
Well, I don't
groups.
think there's not one food that's going to cover everything.
Right. Probably not.
Unless it's some kind of gruel that they
Yeah.
mix all this stuff up in.
Yeah.
I will take gruel because I would like to live.
Be very Matrix style, outside of the Matrix, and they eat the white goop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's got all the essential vitamins and minerals.
I know, but I will give you an answer.
Uh-huh.
As far as natural food, I would pick watermelon.
Oh, really?
But if it was a combination food, I would pick Miles Pizza. It's a pizza place up in Bowling Green, Ohio, where I went to school.
Yeah.
I would say you could go combination. That seems fair.
Okay, then I will, because that's a food and it's just okay, because I wouldn't have to grow up myself. Like you said, there's just a crate of them. Then
Yeah.
I would go with Miles Pizza.
Miles Pizza?
MYLESPIZZA. It's really good pizza if you're ever up there.
Shout out
This
to
episode
Miles.
brought to you by Miles Pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, you could get a lot of your essential vitamins and minerals, I would think, if you do like a full style.
Yeah, but I was thinking Brand's going to say, okay, well, what do you want on it? Because that's all you ever get.
Right, yeah.
Well, see,
He doesn't think that far.
No, the thought of this stemmed, way overthinking.
By the way, it's pepperoni and bacon strips. Okay.
Pepperoni and bacon strips? Well, because you got your iron, you got your bacon.
And your grease.
And your grease.
That's
the
all
three
you need.
food groups, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, you got, tomatoes, tomato sauce. I mean, you're going to get just about everything with pizza. You got your milk group with the cheese. You got your bread with the
carbs
dough.
with the bread.
Yep.
Because it stemmed from a conversation where I was talking to a friend and asking them if you had the magical ability to manifest one food, but that was it. What food would you pick? And I picked burritos because there can be so many different things inside of a burrito. You got a breakfast burrito, chicken,
But that's cheating.
Is it cheating though? If I just say
If you make
burrito,
up the rules.
I was gonna say if he can magically manifest any kind of burrito that he could think of, then I guess it's not really breaking the rules.
Well, that's true, but then you're really not saying if you could pick one food.
Yeah.
I guess that would be one class of food.
Yeah.
A group.
A food group.
A grouping, yeah.
And that's why I asked, well, the topping of the pizza, because I assume that you're locking somebody in. This is what you get over and over.
I mean,
and
at that point, you'd
and
have
over.
to say a supreme of some sort. You'd have to have,
then
the
you could
multiple
pick off
different, multiple different vegetables, and then you could pick off what you don't feel like eating.
Years
that day.
later, you have your island and then a pile of olives.
Yeah. Olives are really good for you, though.
Okay, so we went with Miles Pizza because I did mention watermelon. I don't want people to get it mixed up.
I would say I would also accept watermelon.
Maybe you could take the watermelon as a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
If you also throw in watermelon in answer, or you can send us actual watermelon. We take fruit as bribes.
Just make sure it's seedless.
Totally random question here, but I was reading an interview that you did, I think it was January, and the interviewer asked you what your worst job was. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that?
Golf caddy.
Yeah, but one of the jobs that you mentioned that you did was you were a quality assurance for a potato chip factory?
Mm-hmm. I did that it was like food quality assurance, and I did that it was like a temporary job, so I just did it for part of the summer. And basically what I did was I'd go around the factory, I'd check the bags, I'd pick out 10 random bags, weigh them to make sure the content, I'd check the seals and if the machine was cutting them off correctly.
Yeah.
And then I would pick some chips off the line and some potatoes. I'd check like specific gravity. I would check the coloration. Are they being cooked long enough? I would check the saltiness. I'd have to do titration. I had to do. It was just a whole series of
Holy
steps
crap.
that I had. to
Yeah,
go
really.
through.
You think that they have multiple people for that?
No, I mean it was boring.
Well,
because it was just me in the lab, and
right
when
up
you're
my
out
alley,
on the
though.
when you're out on the line, it's very loud. I mean, you got and because it's not a quiet place, and it was for Mike Sells chips, and I will tell you what, it was a very clean place. You would think a place that has food like that, they are sweeping everywhere. There were not bugs. There was not. I mean, it was a clean place. They did the job because you kind of think no, and it was almost always on, and the people were decent enough. If I'd go out and say, hey, you're not getting enough salt on that, they would have to adjust because they were, or I'd talk to a supervisor to go tell the people on the line to do it.
Right.
But so it was a good job. It was interesting, but I wouldn't want to do it as a career because being a teacher, you're doing more interaction. I would have gotten bored with doing that the rest of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if I would have gotten to know the people that I'm working with, it might have been different, but I was just a temporary guy going in there, filling in, doing a job while the people that do it are on vacation or whatever.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I would not think that quality assurance potato chips would be that involved at all.
Well,
I assumed it was walk on the line. Yep, it's good.
well, that would depend on your taster then, yeah. But and the only reason I got the job was because I was a science teacher too. I'm an English teacher and a science teacher, so
Right.
I knew how to do some of that stuff. So they didn't have to. They just had to go through and train me once or show me once or twice and say, "This is how you do it." And I said, "Okay, I know how to do that."
Right. Yeah. Huh. It's really interesting.
Let me see what time it is real quick.
It's 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Okay. Do you want to go ahead and we'll mention Jack's Tale?
Sure.
Give a shoot
Sure.
on that, and then
well,
we'll wrap
I'll do
up.
this real quick too. I'll just talk about this. This is
Yeah,
Oh,
genre
yeah,
shotgun.
sorry.
Mhm.
genre shotgun, and I think you were reading some
All
of
the
that.
short stories.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's the collection of short stories. It's got science fiction, mystery, suspense, horror, inspirational, and what it was is just all the stories that I had written over time that were published in magazines or anthologies or whatever. When
Right.
the rights came back, my publisher just put them together all together. That's why it's genre shotgun, because it's everywhere. You're not
Right.
going to just get science fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there
Okay.
were a few very, very interesting stories down through there. There's one where guy gets cryogenically frozen.
Yeah, yeah. Tethered in purgatory.
Yeah, tethered in purgatory. That one really stands out to me. And then the one who the limo driver.
Accelerated justice.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of the old amoral justice system. He just gets caught up. I mean, it's a really good idea. Basically, what the theme behind it, or the thing is, people don't do their crimes in jail anymore. In other words, if you get a 10-year sentence, they inject you with a serum that degrades your DNA, and you age in a very short amount of time, 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, like, you age like 40 times faster.
Yeah.
And so then,
Until you
res-
reach the sentence?
yep,
Mm-hmm.
they can calibrate it for that.
Oh, okay.
And so you, and if you get 70 years to life, you get 70 years. And so you're going to die really quick. And
Yeah.
they do it out in public. I mean, I guess if you're really violent, they're going to lock you away.
Mhm.
Right.
But otherwise, it's cheaper.
Is it a visible thing too?
Yes.
So somebody gets injected in public with
Well,
40 years.
no,
are you going to
no.
see them?
No, you don't see that. But a person that, I mean, you think about it, one day for you is 40 for somebody else.
Yeah, yeah.
And so 1 year you age 40 years over that time.
Right.
Yeah.
So people see it. And if you haven't seen somebody in a month, you notice a difference.
Yeah.
And so it's cheaper because you don't have to pay for prisons.
Right.
The recidivism, people see it happening, they're going to think twice as what it is. But what if you're wrongly accused or found guilty?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Is that where the story takes place?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
What do you do?
Yeah. Yeah, those are the two that stand out to me. I've gotten about halfway through it, and those were the two that really. Because the first few stories in there are very kind of camp oriented,
Mm-hmm.
and they were interesting. But then I got to those, and I was like, oh man,
Yep.
those more made my brain work.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, because tethered in purgatory, the guy can see heaven, but he can't leave because he's tethered. His soul's tethered to his body. 'cause
Yeah.
he's frozen,
yeah,
and he's kind of screwed.
yeah.
Let me ask you, and this is off. This won't be on the episode, obviously, besides the fact that we're live streaming.
Yeah, that we're live streaming. Hi, everybody.
I need to leave like very, very soon.
Right.
Do you want me to just I can just kind of see myself out on this episode, thank Terry, leave, and then you guys can wrap up, so I'm not rushing this last 5 minutes with talking about Jack's Tale and where to get a hold of him,
I mean,
because I don't want to rush it.
we're at an hour 9, dude.
Yeah, but
Well, yeah,
he's
well, we can finish up quickly. That's fine with me.
okay. I just didn't want to rush you, given where you can go.
Well, they're
and
really
stuff.
here to see you and not Remington.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, you can
And
barely
people are
see
just going to
Remington
turn
anyway.
it off then.
Yeah.
They'll just kind of put the paper over the screen where you are and where Remington is, and draw a picture of you on the screen.
Yeah.
I don't know why they'd do that.
I don't
Because they're
know.
good artists.
Yeah.
I'll just tell my daughter, if she doesn't, just give me manga eyes. I tease her about that.
So, but yeah, I mean, we're an hour
I'll just
in.
wrap up with Jack's Tale real quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can do it fast. That's my work in progress, what I'm working on. It's a standalone. It's not part of any of the series.
You don't have to rush that fast.
Hey, I can talk fast because it's like you get to the end of the class period and you got more stuff to cover. You guys better listen.
Yeah.
'Cause we're going to get it done. But it's a alien invasion novel, and the working title is Jack's Tale. The regular title is I think it's going to be Thunderwells.
Right.
And,
Oh, like when they would do the explosions underground?
Yep. Yeah.
And the steam would shoot the caps up into space, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You'll get it.
I knew that already.
We had talked about
You
that.
didn't tell me
knew it.
beforehand.
You guys are
I knew
kinda
it
smart.
already.
I knew it already.
Completely.
Yeah. But
Brandon didn't know anything.
but anyways, it's an alien invasion novel, and again, it's an average guy
Yeah.
who gets caught up in it.
So this isn't tied
He's
in.
not like a Navy SEAL or somebody like that.
Right. So this isn't tied into, Crack's War Chronicles
No,
or
It's just a
the long named.
First Civilizations.
First
legacy
Yeah.
series, right? It's just something that I wanted to write, and I've got at least 2 more of the First Civilizations legacy, and I've got at least 2 more of the Crack's War Chronicles. Although I can tell you, I've already penned the last scene for the Crack's War Chronicles,
Oh, yeah?
so I know when I get to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be the end.
That's really cool because it kind of gives you a carrot, right?
Well, it's an overall story.
Do you want to get to the end? Like, have you written it and you're happy with it enough that you're like, I want to get to the end?
Well, just like I was saying in the other podcast I did, like Flying Hawk, it's not going to be I'm not going to be on novel 37.
Right.
Okay, there just isn't enough storyline and now maybe I'll pick up another character in there
Right.
in that world, but it's not going to be Flying Hawk.
Yeah.
You just you've got so many. It's like a TV series. After a while, you've done all the stories that there are. It's
Right.
run its arc.
Yeah.
Eventually he's going to be an old guy.
Yeah.
Okay. It just happens.
So with Jack's Tale, you're already in editing phase, aren't you?
Well, no,
Sort of?
I'm about 50,000 words in.
Uh-huh.
I think it's going to be about 80,000, maybe 90,000. But I'm
Okay.
getting a lot written this summer.
Yeah.
And you're right. I did go through one time, and I started from beginning to end.
Maybe
and
that's what I
edited it.
saw, yeah.
Yeah, that's what you saw. Because on my Facebook page, I sometimes post what I write, how much
Yeah.
I've got done and what I'm doing. And I do that in Flankers too, which is kind of like it's a fan group on Facebook for the First Civilizations, but people read my other books too, and I talk about other stuff there.
Right.
But yeah, so I have, and so I'm working on it, and it's an alien invasion novel. Aliens show up, and they kind of devastate the Earth, and they're gonna try and, well, Jack doesn't know really because he's finding out things, but he's thinking they're going to try and colonize, and they've done stuff like they've used EMPs, they use kinetic energy weapons. They shoot down from space a big hard block of nickel or
yeah.
metal, and so that the momentum, the speed, it's just like getting hit by
Rail
a small
guns.
nuclear
Yeah.
blast, and then they cause tsunamis, and then they release little pods of animals that turn out to be like crawlers, giant centipedes that are tougher than heck to kill, and they hunt humans.
Huh.
And dozers, which are bigger, they're kind of like a cross between a bear and a rhino, and they can just tear through anything, and they're tough as heck to kill too.
Yeah.
Are they intelligent or are they like
No,
animal?
They're animal.
Okay.
But they sent in and they just track humans. And remember, now you have no cars, no vehicles, no anything, and so they're thinning out the population.
Yeah. Huh.
And so you spend half your time trying to hide.
Yeah.
So
Do you have plans for that to continue past one book?
no.
You're planning it 100%. This is going to be a standalone.
Well, my
It is what
publisher
it is.
says standalones don't sell as well, but it's a story I wanted to tell, and then I got to get back to my other ones.
Right. Yeah.
Might I suggest at the end, put the end with a question mark?
Has anybody done that before?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I'll go ahead and
that'll be
trademark
so
that now, but
yeah,
I
you
think
better
that'll.
trademark that. Yeah. But that's the book, and I hope to get it done this summer, and I'll get it edited and revised. And part of the thing when I go through and edit it, I do a lot better.
Right.
It's not going to need as much. And then I'll talk to my publisher, see if he wants it. Griffinwood Press, and if they do, then he'll hire an editor.
Right.
And maybe it'll come out before Christmas, maybe after. It just depends on how fast I am, because then it depends. He's got editors that he has hired, but it depends on where they are on publishing everything else.
Yeah.
Right.
But it
yeah.
won't be like a huge publishing house where it'll be 2 years.
Yeah.
So where can people find your stuff?
All my stuff is available. Print is available through Barnes & Noble's, Amazon, You can order it through a bookstore anywhere you want if you got the ISBN, the print.
Right.
You can find the ebooks just about anywhere. You can find audiobooks, iTunes, through Amazon, on Audible.
And we'll have links in the description for
to
to buy them on Amazon as well,
yeah.
too.
Yeah, my website, I've got a page where available, and it will have all the links. People can just go wherever they go to find it, and it's got it all organized.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
And your website is Ervin, ERVIN-author.com.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
ERVIN-author, AUTHOR.com.
Right.
Yep.
And then from there you have links to your blog, and
Yeah.
you're pretty active on your blog too.
Sometimes more than others. Again, it depends school year, and sometimes when I'm really busy writing, I don't have as much time, or I
Right.
don't have a lot of interviews lined up, things like that.
Yeah. You have more questions?
No.
You only have the 3?
I have these 3, and then the 4th question is, what was our word? At the beginning of the episode, Remington says, thank you as always for joining us, as always, on this blank Sunday, whatever date it is. What was our
July
word?
10th.
That will be our 4th question.
Gotcha.
So the questions are, what was Terry's favorite fantasy character?
Yep.
Should I give the answers again now as a recap?
No.
Yeah, you can listen.
You're at least nice enough. You set it aside. You say,
Yeah.
here's the question.
Don't be
Yeah.
a bum. I find the best ways to berate the audience, right?
That's what we usually do. I mean, to get them to comment and see how well that works.
Question
out.
2 is, who is his favorite sci-fi character? Question
Correct.
3 is, what food would you have on a desert island?
Yep.
With the bonus. So technically,
With
it's
the
kind of like
bonus.
4 questions.
Yeah, there you go. And then number 4 is, what was our word of the day, which you can go back and listen to in the first 30-ish seconds of the episode and hear that.
Right. All right. Do you have anything else?
No.
We're good?
Terry,
I don't have anything else, except if we could stay online, then we could rip on.
Brandon, after he leaves?
After he leaves.
I mean, we might be.
He
able
doesn't
to.
watch the podcast.
Oh, no, he doesn't
if you
listen
guys
to
are
it.
live
He
streaming,
can't
I'll
s-
listen to it in the car on the way home.
He can't stand his own voice.
Yeah, but you'll get
I
really,
love my voice. I
We don't
can't
want
stand
road
you.
rage going on.
Yeah, that's true. What did they say?
So if you have any questions or comments, or you'd like to hear yourself on air, you can call us at 978-DU Ogres. That's 978-386-4737.
You can call that number also with your answers for these 4 questions.
That
When
is
this
correct.
episode is published, you can find us on our Facebook page, which Remington will repeat again, I'm sure.
When do they have to have the answers by?
They have
July
to have-
24th.
Yep. And July 24th is also the River City Comic Con, which you will be attending, yes?
Yes, I will.
So there you go. You can find him at the... what other... Are you doing any other...
I've got Art Affair in the Square next weekend in Urbana, Ohio. I've got Pony Wagon Days in St. Paris in September.
Pony Wagon Days?
Yeah, that's
That sounds adorable.
it is. It's a nice. It's the town where I live in St. Paris. It's their festival. You know, towns have different festivals. They've
Yeah.
got Egg Days or whatever. We got Pony Wagon, and then they have a Pony Wagon museum there. It's really kind of neat. They used to build them years ago. They built pony wagons.
Is it exactly what it sounds like? Is it a smaller wagon that a pony pulls?
Yes.
Really?
You'll have to go to the Pony Wagon Museum, and you can see all kinds. They're really kind of neat, but they are smaller. They're meant for ponies to pull. It's it's not like a huge, draft horse.
Yeah.
And actually, I had to do research on draft horses for the novel I'm working on, which is really, you do a lot of weird stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll just throw this in. Google Earth is awesome because I'm traveling down roads that I haven't traveled on.
Yeah.
You can just use Google Earth and drive down the road.
Oh, yeah.
quickly.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Research is so much easier now. I'm glad I didn't have to do this 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. to
That's
interrupt.
all right.
Oh, it's okay.
You can also reach us and or email us your answers to the questions at duelingogres@gmail.com. Leave a comment on the Facebook page. Reach us on Twitter at duelingogres. Make sure to check out our website, duelingogres.com, for articles pertaining to some of your favorite geek news. It's been a little slow the past couple of weeks. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or find us on TuneIn, Stitcher, Pod Directory, or anywhere else you can find a podcast. And if you'd like to support us, don't cut me off. I was
go
redoing
ahead.
it for the audio.
Go ahead.
If you'd like to support us, you can change your Amazon bookmark to one that includes our affiliate code. So until next week, Ogres.
Wait.
Oh,
Terry, thank
Yeah.
you for coming.
yes.
thank
You made the drive down, and we appreciate
Yeah.
it.
It was worth it.
You
guys
were
are
our
cool.
first real interview,
real
in-person interview, and the one
Yeah.
we were most nervous for when it happened.
Yeah.
So,
And I just turned out to be a cool person like you guys are. And
Yeah.
people, I will just say it's fun to interact with you guys on Facebook and things like. I would encourage people to do it.
Yeah.
Or to send emails, or just call on the phone and say something.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it is, you guys are fun guys. It just makes sense.
we will interact with you 100%.
Yeah, we will. And we might make fun of you too. But you got to have a thick skin.
Yeah. I mean, you're not really selling it well, Remington.
I'm not? Are you sure?
No. Please, people who listen but don't comment, we know you're listening.
We want you to comment.
And then Remington
we'll make
says
fun
he'll
of
make
you.
fun of you and to grow a thicker skin. That's
Well,
really
they could even have a little influence on the direction you take for future. If there's something
Exactly.
that they're interested in that you might be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if you want to pitch us ideas to make our show better, we don't care.
I think at this
If
point,
you call up with a question on the phone, they are going to put you on because you did that once.
Yeah,
They're going to put you
in the podcast.
in the podcast, and they will answer your question
Yeah.
to the best of their ability.
Yeah, and if you have any questions for Terry that you find out that you want, you can send it over to us, and we'll have him call in and answer your question after he listens to it.
Sweet.
We'll have phoneception.
ooh,
Yeah.
phoneception. Okay.
Phone.
nice.
Yeah, I made the...
I thought we were going a totally different
No, I
direction
got-
with phone stuff.
No. So until next week, Ogres, keep your clubs blunt.
And your tusks sharp.
Good night.
There you go.
And that's a wrap. I'm going to send it over to the break scene now.
No, I parked it.
Yeah, because I didn't want that.
I don't blame you.